Reborn on the day of my daughter Tao Zi's wedding, she served a cup of tea to both me and my in-law, Lu Wanqiu. Just as my hand touched the teacup, she suddenly said, "Mom, I've realized you're actually quite competitive, even with serving tea. You want to be ahead of my mother-in-law. In this regard, you're not as good as my mother-in-law. She is graceful and magnanimous, never competing or fighting for anything. That's what true seniority looks like." As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of all the guests in the hall instantly fell upon me. Seeing that my expression remained unchanged, Tao Zi added with a hint of coquettishness, "Mom, don't be angry. I was just trying to lighten the mood. You wouldn't take such a small joke seriously, would you? Besides, I wasn't wrong. My mother-in-law really did give me 10 million as a gift for changing how I address her. Unlike some elders who are stingy but still want to put on airs, in the previous life, Lu Wanqiu gave her 10 million, only to turn around and make her sign an agreement to waive marital property, ultimately leaving her with nothing. As for me, her biological mother, the 5 million I had prepared as her secret nest egg never even had the chance to be given to her. In that case, I might as well keep this money for myself to spend." I turned around, set down the teacup, picked up the red envelope on the table, and in front of everyone, took out a single dollar and placed it in her hand. "My dear daughter, may you have a harmonious and blissful marriage, filled with endless happiness." A 1 yuan note fluttered lightly into Tao Zi's palm. The smile on her face froze. The guests in the hall couldn't help but start whispering among themselves. The professional smile on the host's face was barely holding on as he desperately tried to find words to smooth things over. Lu Wanqiu sat upright, a slight curve forming at the corner of her mouth, her expression one of pure amusement. Her son-in-law, Wenjin, frowned and quickly walked over to Tao Zi's side, asking in a low voice, "Zi, what's going on?" Tao Zi snapped back to reality, her voice suddenly rising sharply. "Mom, what do you mean by that? Giving me 1 yuan on such an occasion? Are you trying to embarrass me?" I picked up my teacup and took a slow, deliberate sip. "Didn't you say we should liven up the atmosphere? Your mother-in-law gave you 10 million, so I wish you boundless happiness. It's not about the amount, it's the thought that counts. Do you really think the bond between mother and daughter is only worth $1?" My barrage of questions left her speechless. She looked to her mother-in-law for help. Only then did Lu Wanqiu set down her teacup and slowly rise, putting on the airs of a benevolent elder. "In-laws, Zi is young and speaks her mind. Please don't take it to heart. Today is a joyous occasion. Let's not let such a small matter spoil the harmony." As she spoke, she took out a thick red envelope from her Hermes bag and pressed it into Tao Zi's hand. "Zi, Mom knows you've been wronged. Take this to calm your nerves." Tao Zi immediately broke into a smile through her tears, hugging Lu Wanqiu's arm and coquettishly saying, "Thank you, Mom, you're the one who loves me the most." After serving the tea, Tao Zi and Wenjin went to toast the guests, deliberately avoiding my table the entire time during the banquet. A relative came over to express their indignation. "That child Tao Zi is just too outrageous. How did you raise such an ungrateful wretch?" I smiled and said, "The child is grown up now and has their own thoughts." The relative wanted to say something more but was pulled away by her husband. I sat alone and quietly finished the entire wedding banquet. No one disturbed me again. After the wedding, I didn't wait for them and took a taxi home by myself. As soon as I got home, Tao Zi's call came chasing after me. The moment the call connected, it was her hysterical questioning. "Lin Su, did you deliberately make me lose face today? Are you jealous that I married well? Jealous that my mother-in-law is richer than you?" She didn't even call me Mom anymore, just addressed me by my name. "Do you have any idea how much you've embarrassed me in front of Wenjin and his friends? My mother-in-law is so magnanimous, but all you do is make me feel ashamed." I put the call on speakerphone, listening to her vent while I changed my shoes. I waited until she was done venting before picking up my phone and asking, "Are you done?" There was a choked silence on the other end of the line. "Tao Zi, your wedding is over. You're now a member of the Wen family, so stop bothering me. Whether I have money or not, whether I'm jealous of you or not, none of that is any of your business. You should be worrying about how to firmly grasp that 10 million change of address fee from your mother-in-law in your own hands." After saying that, I hung up the phone directly. For the next month, Tao Zi indeed did not contact me again, but my social media feed was almost completely flooded by her posts. Today is about sunbathing on a private beach in the Maldives. Tomorrow is about splurging in luxury boutiques in Paris. In the photos, she is surrounded by designer handbags and jewelry, smiling with pure happiness. Each social media post is accompanied by suggestive captions. "A woman's choice in marriage truly matters, and I'm Grateful for my wonderful mother-in-law. Some happiness is innate, something you can't help but envy. Occasionally, when Jean would appear in the frame, gazing at her with a look of pure adoration, the comment section below was filled with praise from her newly acquainted socialite friends. Z is truly a winner in life. So envious, Mrs. Wynn's daily life is our dream. My relatives and friends also left comments below. Z is getting more and more beautiful. Happy wedding, may you be happy. Tao Z would selectively reply to those who flattered her, completely ignoring my relatives. In my previous life, I too had felt comforted by such happiness of hers. It wasn't until she left with nothing, crying as she came back to find me, that I realized all of this was nothing but a mirage. Lu Wanqiu was a master. She used these small favors to elevate Tao Z to great heights, making her completely lose herself in a false sense of wealth and luxury. She made her feel that her own family was a burden, while her husband's family was her true support. Then, at the peak of her pride and satisfaction, she pulled the rug out from under her. After about a month of flooding my feed and getting no reaction from me, not even a single like, Tao Z started to lose her patience. She began sending me WeChat messages. At first, she shared some links: the art of high-EQ mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationships and how women can build their own careers. Seeing that I still didn't reply, he began to attack directly. Mom, are you still mad at me? I already said it was just a joke. As an elder, can't you be a little more magnanimous? My mother-in-law said she wants to invite you to have a meal with our whole family to ease the tension. Seeing this message, I replied with 2 words: no time. She probably didn't expect me to be so direct. Taking a long while before replying, a long string of voice messages came through, filled with that familiar tone of accusation and complaint. I didn't open a single one, directly deleting the chat window. Not 2 days later, a stranger's profile picture sent me a friend request, with the verification message: in-law, I'm Lu Wanqiu. I clicked accept. Lu Wanqiu's approach was indeed far more sophisticated than Tao Z's. Instead of starting with accusations, she began by asking about my well-being. How have the in-laws been lately? Z is such a thoughtless child. She keeps telling me she misses you, but she's too shy to bother you. She said she upset you on the wedding day and has been feeling guilty ever since. Just childish temper. Please don't take it to heart. Every sentence revolved around Tao Z, neatly absolving herself of any responsibility. I replied, all is well, no need to worry. In the following days, she began to reveal another side of her graceful and magnanimous nature. First, she had her driver deliver a box of bird's nest, supposedly a special overseas supply, which I refused to accept. Then she sent an invitation to a charity gala, saying she wanted to show me the world and introduce me to some friends. I replied, not interested. It was as if she couldn't sense my distance. She still sent a daily greeting on WeChat, acting as warmly as if we were longtime best friends. It wasn't until I stopped replying altogether that she finally showed her true colors. In-laws, I understand that the economic gap between our families might make you uncomfortable, but our feelings for Z are genuine. We are family now, and we should support each other going forward. Z and when Jean want to make some investments together, it's good for young people to be ambitious, and we elders should support them. I replied directly, I don't have the money. Lu Wanqiu quieted down on her end. She began taking Tao Z to various top-tier private clubs, under the guise of expanding their network. At those events, she would casually chat with investment tycoons about a promising overseas new energy project, when Jean, on the side, chimed in, pulling out a pre-prepared feasibility report and analyzing it with great detail, claiming it was a turnaround opportunity he had secured for their small family. After several flawless performances, Tao Z was completely convinced, believing that her in-laws were genuinely trying to help her, to bring her into the business and elevate her to a higher status. As a result, Tao Z began calling me incessantly. When her calls wouldn't go through, she tried different phone numbers. When I blocked her on WeChat, she used Wenjin's account or those of her friends over and over. It's still the same few lines, but the tone has shifted from boasting to bestowing a favor. Mom, are you still holding a grudge about the wedding? Think bigger. My mother-in-law says family shouldn't haggle over such things. I'm giving you an opportunity now. This project was secured by my mother-in-law through several layers of connections. It's a sure win with no losses. The return rate is 30%. When Jean has invested all his savings, saying he wants to help me achieve financial freedom as soon as possible, so I never have to answer to anyone again. We want to bring you along to get rich too, so you can live a truly upper-class life, instead of clinging to that stagnant money. We're just short of 2 million in startup capital. Don't you have 5 million? I promise. 3 months. In 3 months, I'll return your principal with interest, and you'll be an investor too, in My past life, it was this guaranteed profit project that turned the 5 million I had set aside for Tao Zi into nothing but empty promises. Actually, it was a trap set by Lu Wanqiu. She had someone create a fake investment project to trick Tao Zi and me into putting in money. As soon as the money was in hand, that friend vanished into thin air. Then Lu Wanqiu hypocritically came out to console us, claiming she had been deceived too. But it didn't matter. Money is just a worldly possession, and what's important is that everyone is safe. She used my money to buy herself a good reputation, and made Tao Zi resent me even more. She thought I was the one who cost her a chance to get rich in this life. How could I possibly fall for it again? I blocked those unfamiliar numbers one by one, my heart calm and undisturbed, until one afternoon, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Tao Zi and Wenjin. Tao Zi's eyes were red and swollen, as if she had been crying. Wenjin, on the other hand, wore an expression of impatience. I'm not planning to open the door. Tao Zi initially just cried and pleaded pitifully. Mom, open the door. It's Zi. I really have nowhere else to turn. Please help me. Seeing that I showed no reaction, her voice began to change its tone, and she started banging on the door outside. Lin Su, open the door. I know you're in there. Give me the money. That's what you owe me anyway. Other mothers go out of their way to help their daughters, but you, all you do is hold me back. Her shrill voice drew the neighbors out to watch the commotion. I took out my phone, ready to call the police, when Jean seemed to feel embarrassed and pulled her back. Enough, stop howling. Aren't you ashamed? Tao Zi's crying paused for a moment, then erupted even more intensely. Me, embarrassing? When Jean, what do you mean by that? If it weren't for your mother going back on her word, would I need to come begging her? We agreed on a 10 million address change fee back then, and now it's turned into some family fund, giving me just 50,000 a month for pocket money. That's like tossing scraps to a beggar. Even buying a bag requires watching her expression. I've had enough. The couple's argument grew louder and louder. So, that's how the so-called 10 million name change fee was given. In my previous life, Tao Zi never told me this detail before she was left with nothing. It seems that with this rebirth, the course of many events has been accelerated. Listening to the argument outside the door, I felt not a shred of sympathy for her. She chose this path herself. Perhaps they were tired from arguing. As it grew quiet outside, I thought they had left. After a while, the doorbell rang again, this time, two short, sharp chimes. I looked through the peephole again. Only when Jean was there, the impatience from earlier was gone from his face, replaced instead by a hypocritical smile. Mom, open the door, let's talk. Z is still young and doesn't know any better. Please don't take it to heart. We're really in a tough spot. That project my mom is working on is truly reliable. I guarantee it with my character. If you lend us the money, consider it an investment. Once we make a profit, we'll give you dividends and show our gratitude. His words certainly sounded more convincing than Tao Zi's. I said coldly, get out. When Jin's smile froze on his face, his tone instantly turning gloomy. Mom, don't be ungrateful when we're giving you face. We're discussing this with you politely. Don't force us to use other methods. Aren't you afraid that Tao Zi will really cut ties with you? When you're old and sick, who will take care of you? I sneered coldly. I've already called the police. Harassment and threats. If you don't leave now, you can explain yourselves to the officers. Outside the door, when Jin's low curses and Tao Zi's resentful sobs echoed, but soon, it fell silent. A wave of exhaustion washed over me, the dull ache of severing blood ties with my own hands. After that day, they quieted down for a few days. Unexpectedly, a week later, Tao Zi and Wenjin, along with Lu Wanqiu, came knocking at my door together. This time, they didn't pound on the door but waited politely outside. I came back from grocery shopping and saw the three of them blocking my doorway. As soon as Lu Wanqiu saw me, she immediately put on a wide smile and came up to take my arm. But I sidestepped to avoid her. Dear in-law, you're finally back. We've been waiting for you for a long time. Tao Zi's face looked awful, but she still forced a smile and said, Mom. When Jean also called out, Mom, I looked at them, expressionless. What do you want? Lu Wanqiu quickly said, In-laws, let's go inside and talk. Standing outside will make people laugh. I took out my keys and opened the door, and they followed me in. As soon as they entered, Lu Wanqiu began sizing up my house. It must feel quite lonely for you to live alone in such a big house, in-law. I didn't respond, heading to the kitchen to pour myself a glass of water, with no intention of entertaining them. In the living room, the atmosphere grew somewhat awkward. Tao Zi walked up to me and knelt down with a thud. I was startled, and the water glass in my hand shook. She spoke while crying. Mom, I was wrong. I shouldn't have embarrassed you at the wedding, shouldn't have been stubborn with you, shouldn't have said those hurtful things. Please, forgive me just this once. We've truly reached the end of the road. It turned out that the so-called investment project had its subscription deadline tomorrow. If they can't come up with the money again, they'll have no chance at all. To show his sincerity, Wenjin has already invested the hundreds of thousands in savings under his own name. Now all that's missing is my 2 million. Wenjin also chimed in with soft words. Yes, Mom, this time it's our fault. Please be generous and help us out. Lu Wanqiu also chimed in from the side. In-laws, just consider it as a request from me, your in-law. Once they earn money, I promise they'll repay you twice over. If I hadn't been reborn once, I might have truly softened. Unfortunately, there are no ifs. I set down the water glass and looked at Tao Zi kneeling on the floor. If you want me to give you the money, that's fine. The eyes of all three of them instantly lit up, but I have one condition. What condition, Mom? Just tell us, as long as we can. Do it, Tao Zi asked eagerly. I pulled a document and a pen from the coffee table drawer and tossed them in front of them. Sign it. It was a statement severing all ties, written in black and white. Clear as day, I voluntarily sever the mother-daughter relationship. From now on, in matters of marriage, death, and all life events, we shall have nothing to do with each other. All property under my name will no longer have any connection to her. Tao Zi's crying stopped as she looked at me in disbelief. Wenjin and Lu Wanqiu's faces instantly darkened. Lin Su, have you gone mad? Lu Wanqiu shrieked. I looked at her calmly. I'm not crazy. This is my money, and it's my freedom to decide who I want to give it to and who I don't. If you want the money, trade it for the relationship. It's only fair. Tao Zi picked up the statement, her hands trembling. Mom, do you have to be so heartless? You were the one who cut ties first. Tao Zi's gaze shifted back and forth between the statement and my face. She was weighing her options. On one side was the elusive bond of mother and daughter, on the other was the easily attainable millions in future wealth. Just as she picked up the pen, ready to sign, she suddenly caught sight of a bag I had placed on the entryway cabinet. It was one I had bought just a few days ago, a brand that wasn't particularly eye-catching but came with a hefty price tag. Then her eyes fell on the watch on my wrist. His gaze suddenly turned greedy and venomous as he stood up, pointing at me and shouting, I get it now. You're not giving me money not because you're angry with me, but because you want to enjoy it all yourself. You're using the inheritance my dad left behind to buy yourself designer brands and live a good life, yet you won't give me a single cent. Lin Su, how can you be so heartless? Her words opened up a new line of thinking for Wenjin and Lu Wanqiu. The way they looked at me shifted from anger to greed. Lu Wanqiu licked her lips, and her tone changed as well. In-laws, you can't say that. Your husband passed away early, leaving behind this money, which should rightfully have a share for Z. You don't spend much on your own anyway, so why compete with your child over it? Wenjin was even more direct, walking right up to me with a hostile look in his eyes. Mom, I'll call you Mom one last time. Hand over the card and tell us the password, otherwise. He didn't finish his sentence, but the threat was unmistakable. I looked at their ugly faces and suddenly laughed. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Hello, Captain Zhang. There are 3 robbers in my house. Yes, the address is. The police arrived quickly. When she saw the police, Lu Wanqiu's legs went weak. When Jean still tried to argue, claiming it was a family dispute, I directly played the recording I had secretly made earlier for the police to hear. All 3 of them were taken away in an orderly manner. Before leaving, Tao Zi glared at me with venomous hatred. Lin Su, you old hag, just you wait. I'll get my hands on every last penny of your coffin money sooner or later. Let's see who'll take care of you when you're sick and dying in bed. I responded with a smile. Due to the severe negative impact, though no actual harm was caused, they were detained for 15 days. Those 15 days were the most peaceful and content I had ever experienced. I signed up for a cooking class, picking up the hobby I had set aside for many years. My father was a former state banquet chef, and growing up under his influence, I also learned excellent culinary skills. It's just that after getting married, for the sake of the family and for Tao Zi, I gave up my career and became a housewife for over 20 years. I spent almost all my time in the kitchen, repeatedly flipping through and practicing the yellowed recipe notes my father left behind. I kept practicing my knife skills until blisters formed on my hands. Yet I never stopped. Once, the master chef saw me standing in front of the stove for 6 hours, tirelessly adjusting the heat and sauce to recreate an ancient-style hanging roasted chicken. The final result had crispy skin and tender meat, leaving even him in awe. These days, there are too few people willing to put in such painstaking effort while also possessing talent. At the end of the course, he solemnly called me into his office and asked if I would be willing to become his final apprentice and join him in running his private kitchen. He said that my dishes carry the shadow of my father, along with my own unyielding resilience. I gladly agreed. This was a perfect opportunity. People in Luanchio's circle loved to flaunt their taste the most. Being able to eat this master chef's dishes was their bragging right, and I was about to become the one cooking for them. I heard that in the detention center, Luanchio had already fought with Wenjin. She scratched his face and cursed him as a useless good-for-nothing who couldn't even handle an old woman. Wenjin, in turn, called her a troublemaker who stirred up trouble at home, saying all of this was caused by her insatiable greed. The stock price of the Wen family's company plummeted due to the scandal, throwing everything into chaos. The most dramatic part was Tao Zi, the newlywed daughter-in-law teamed up with her husband's biological mother to force her own mother to hand over her late husband's inheritance. When that failed, they resorted to robbery and were ultimately arrested. This news became the biggest gossip in our third-tier small city. Tao Zi was completely famous now. Her high society friends immediately drew a clear line between themselves and her. Beneath her old social media posts, there was nothing but mockery and people kicking her while she was down. LOL, I thought she was really a wealthy socialite. Turns out she's just a gold digger. The whole family is a bunch of weirdos, obsessed with money to the point of madness. My heart aches for her mother for a second. Raising such a thing, I looked at those comments, feeling completely unmoved. 15 days later, they were released. That very afternoon, I received a court summons. Tao Zi had sued me. He accused me of illegally seizing his father's inheritance and demanded a redivision of the property. When the summons arrived, I was in the kitchen experimenting with a new dish. Buddha jumps over the wall. I laughed out loud as I read the contents of the summons. What a wonderful daughter I have, always pushing the boundaries of my understanding. She probably thought that using the law to pressure me would make me afraid, would make me compromise. Unfortunately, she miscalculated. When my husband passed away, all the property he left behind was clearly stated in the will, to be inherited solely by me. This will was notarized and holds legal validity. At that time, Tao Zi was still a minor, and the will also mentioned that her upbringing and education expenses would be entirely borne by me until she graduated from university. Not only did I fulfill this responsibility, but I did it exceptionally well. Since she was a child, has she ever lacked for anything in food, clothing, or daily necessities? She wants to sue me. It's nothing but a fool's dream. On the day of the hearing, I specifically took half a day off. In the courtroom, I saw the three of them together once again. It had only been a little over half a month, yet all three of them looked noticeably more haggard. Even the thick layer of powder on Luanchio's face couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. When Jean kept his head down, not daring to look at me, Tao Zi stood in the plaintiff's seat, wearing heavy makeup and dressed in designer brands, but the clothes hung loose and oversized on her frame, as if she couldn't quite fill them out. The lawyer she hired was a top-tier attorney brought in at great expense by the Wen family, known for his skill in twisting the truth. In court, he delivered an impassioned speech, painting her as a pitiful daughter who had grown up starved for love, mentally controlled by her mother, and even deprived of her father's inheritance. Meanwhile, I was portrayed as a selfish, malicious mother who hoarded my husband's estate and neglected my daughter without a second thought. He even produced my recent spending records, pointing at the watch on my wrist and the bag in the entryway, claiming that I had been recklessly squandering money that rightfully belonged to our daughter, living a life of extravagance while turning a blind eye to her struggles. Your Honor, what my client seeks is not money, but justice, a father's love that she rightfully deserves. Some of the spectators in the gallery, unaware of the truth, began to point fingers at me. I remained silent throughout, listening quietly until the judge asked me if I had anything to say in my defense. Only then did I stand up and submit to the court the notarized will of my husband, along with the bank statements from all these years showing the various expenses I had paid for Tao Zi, a thick stack, each entry crystal clear, from her kindergarten tuition fees to the designer bag she bought during her university years. When Tao Zi's lawyer saw the notarized will, he couldn't even control his expression. He clearly hadn't expected such a thing to exist. Tao Zi was even more agitated, standing up. Impossible. My father would never do this. The judge rapped the gavel. Plaintiff, please remain quiet. As a result, the court dismissed all of Tao Zi's claims. As I walked out of the courthouse, Tao Zi chased after me, blocking my path and shouting in frustration, Why is even my father siding with you? Why should he give all the money to you alone? Because your father knew that if the money was given to me, you could at least grow up safely. If it had been given directly to you, you might not have lived to see adulthood. She staggered back a step, her face deathly pale. Lin Su, go ahead and cling to that money. I curse you to die alone in old age, with no one by your side when you die, rotting and stinking in your house. With that, she turned and ran. Luanchio and when Jean didn't follow her, they just stood there in the distance, watching me with cold, icy stares. I don't care. Back at the private kitchen, the old master chef saw I was in a good mood and teased, Won the lawsuit? I nodded. Won, that's good. The old master handed me the cattail leaf fan in his hand. "There's a distinguished guest tonight. The Wen family reserved a table, said they want to make amends." My hand, which had taken the fan, paused for a moment. I hadn't expected the so-called apology banquet from the Wen family to be such a grand affair. The person who came was Lu Wanchu's husband, Wen Mingshan, a shrewd-looking man in his 50s, who had also brought along a few friends who appeared to be of considerable status. The master personally received me and introduced me to them. "This is Master Lin, my final disciple," she will be in charge of all the dishes tonight. When Mingshan saw me, his eyes flickered briefly, but he quickly regained his composure. He extended his hand proactively. "Master Lin, I've long heard of your reputation. My family's ignorant child and my wife have offended you before. I apologize on their behalf here." I didn't shake his hand, just nodded slightly. "You're too kind, Mr. Wen." The atmosphere grew somewhat awkward for a moment. One of the friends he brought along smoothed things over. "Old Wen, you just don't get it. True masters all have their own temperaments. We're here to savor fine cuisine, not to navigate social niceties." When Mingshan took the offered way out, Yes, you're absolutely right, Master Lin. We'll be eagerly awaiting your culinary artistry then." I turned and entered the back kitchen, gathering all my focus, calming my mind, and began to cook. One exquisite dish after another was sent out by the servers. From the private rooms outside, waves of exclamations and praises could be heard from time to time. "This Longjing tea shrimp is absolutely divine. The shrimp is sweet, tender, and springy, with a delicate fragrance of tea. This boiled cabbage in clear broth, with its transparent soup and rich yet non-greasy flavor. Now that's true skill." When Mingshan's friends couldn't stop praising my cooking, he himself was beaming with pride, raising his glass again and again. "I told you, anyone recommended by Master Wang is bound to be top-notch." After 3 rounds of drinks and 5 courses of dishes, the old master was being pestered by Wen Mingshan's friends for advice on health preservation. Wen Mingshan, holding a wine glass, walked alone into the back kitchen. "I was preparing the final dessert. Master Lin, your skills truly live up to your reputation," he said, standing behind me. I didn't turn around. "You flatter me, Mr. Wen. I wonder if Master Lin would be interested in pursuing opportunities elsewhere. I own a 5-star hotel that's currently in need of a Chinese cuisine executive chef like you. Name your annual salary and benefits, anything you want." I placed the finished dessert on a plate, garnished it with mint leaves, then turned around to look at him. "Mr. Wen, do you think I look like the kind of lowly chef who would bend over for a few bushels of rice? Your 5-star hotel, I doubt it even compares to the ventilation system in my kitchen. Let me tell you, Wen Mingshan, I am the master here, a legend, and as for your lousy hotel, I wouldn't even deign to take a shit there." When Mingshan's expression gradually darkened, "Master Lin, it's wise to leave some room for reconciliation in life. You never know when you might cross paths again. Our Wen family still carries some weight in Jiangqing. It's always better to have one more friend than one more enemy." "Is that so? But I've heard that the Wen family's stock price has been falling for half a month straight, losing nearly 9 figures in value." I smiled as I wiped my hands, looking him straight in the eyes. "I also heard that your biggest European client, the precision instrument order from that Hanskak country, made it into the local social news because of your family scandal. They sent a letter overnight cancelling the cooperation. That order was worth 30 million euros, wasn't it, Mr. Wen? Must be overwhelmed by bank collection calls right now, right? How do you still have the leisure to come to my little place to poach a chef? He pointed at me, too angry to speak. "Instead of wasting your time here, you'd be better off thinking about how to save your company. Don't mess with me, or I won't mind making sure you don't even have a losing business to run." He shot me a sinister glare, then turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. After Wen Mingshan's banquet at Hongmen failed, they quieted down for a while. My private kitchen restaurant is doing better and better. There are even wealthy businessmen from out of town who fly in on private jets just to have a meal I've prepared. The title Master Lin has completely spread through the upper-class circles of Jiangqing. I've become the mysterious, well-connected, and skilled woman they talk about. No one knows my past. They only know that those for whom I personally cook are either wealthy or noble. This shift in identity is quite intriguing, however. Tao Zi and the Wen family's days are growing increasingly difficult. The Wen family's company is beset by internal and external troubles, leaving Wen Mingshan overwhelmed and anxious. Lu Wanqiu sought blessings from gods and Buddhas everywhere, hoping to change her luck. When Jean was utterly defeated, drowning his sorrows in alcohol all day long, Tao Zi became the punching bag for all of them. Wen Mingshan blamed her, believing that if she hadn't caused such a scene back then, the Wen family wouldn't have become a laughingstock and lost important clients. Lu Wanqiu cursed her as a jinx, saying that ever since she entered the Wen family, nothing good had happened. When Jean would either beat or scold her, venting all his frustrations on her. All this news was told to me by Tao Zi herself, crying over the phone. She had somehow managed to get hold of my new number. He calls me every day at the same time, like clockwork. At first, it was all curses and threats. Linsu, you heartless old hag, you've ruined me like this. Are you laughing to yourself every night, if I'm not doing well? Don't think you'll get off easy either. I'm telling you, you'd better pray every day that you don't get hit by a car when you go out, or else every bit of your inheritance will be mine. I never hang up, and I never speak. I just put it on speakerphone, preparing ingredients while listening to her vent. After complaining for a long time, she herself found it boring, and her tone shifted to playing the victim. Mom, I miss you so much. I was wrong. I really was wrong. When Jean hit me again, look. My arm is all bruised. She would send photos covered in bruises. My mother-in-law scolded me again today. She said if the company goes bankrupt, she'll make me go out drinking to pay off the debts. Mom, please save me. I really can't go on like this anymore. She cried her heart out, as if truly at the end of her rope. She was merely trying to exploit my sympathy, to drag me back into that quagmire of hers. Unfortunately, I was no longer the soft-hearted Linsu from my past life. One day, she called again, sounding in good spirits. Mom, we're saved. When Jean found out some news, our old neighborhood is going to be demolished. They say the compensation is huge. Mom, your house alone could get at least 7 or 8 million. She excitedly mapped out the future, as if the money was already in her hands. Mom, this is God giving us a chance for us mother and daughter to reconcile. As long as you get the demolition compensation, give me half. No, just 1/3 will do. I'll divorce when Jean right away. This money is enough for me to pay off the Wynn family's debts, and we can start over, just the two of us. Don't you want your daughter back? I didn't interrupt her, quietly listening as she finished weaving her beautiful dream. A few days after hanging up the phone, when Jean began to take action, he no longer harassed me directly, but instead contacted a few of my former mahjong friends, pretending to be concerned about me. He said that I was living alone and had undergone a drastic change in temperament, and that he and his wife were very worried I might be deceived. He hoped that old friends could help persuade me not to make a foolish mistake regarding the house. He even went to the neighborhood committee of my old residential area, crying and sobbing, saying that Tao Zi had been driven out of the house by me and was now relying on that bit of demolition compensation to save his life. Trying to pressure the committee into putting pressure on me, those old neighbors had long been taken care of by me. Gifts during holidays never stopped. Upon hearing what he said, they instead called to remind me to be careful of this ungrateful couple. As for the tabloid reporter he found, before he could even conduct an interview, a phone call from my current business partner warned him off, and the article was stillborn until she called again, furious and demanding. Linsu, what on earth did you say to those neighbors? Why won't any of them help me? Is that so? My voice was calm. Tao Zi, have you forgotten, after my husband passed away, that apartment was transferred to me? I am the rightful owner, and what's more, I paused, gazing through the kitchen window at the construction site that had just begun work outside. And you're too slow in getting the news. I signed the demolition agreement last week. The compensation plan isn't cash, it's a property swap. I traded that old, run-down place for a fully renovated, spacious apartment in the city center. All the paperwork is posted on the bulletin board at the neighborhood office. You can go see for yourself. After a long time, Tao Zi's heart-wrenching scream came through. Linsu, how dare you? That was the last time I ever received a call from her. I moved into a spacious apartment in the city center. The over 200 square meter home had an excellent view, overlooking most of Jiangqing's nightscape. I converted one of the largest rooms into my new kitchen. It was equipped with all kinds of top-tier kitchen appliances. I handed over the private kitchen business to another apprentice trained by the master chef. I began to take on only the most high-end custom banquets, and life was thriving in the Wynn family. The capital chain had broken, stocks turned into worthless paper, and banks came knocking to collect debts. When Mingshan's hair turned white overnight, in order to preserve the last of his assets, he chose to divorce Lu Wanqiu, pushing all the debts onto her. And when Jean, the spoiled young master, could not bear the suffering of falling from the clouds, he began to torment Tao Zi with increasing intensity, until one day, the neighbors, unable to endure the daily domestic violence and arguments, called the police. When the police arrived, Tao Zi was beaten to the brink of death, curled up on the cold floor. Her face was swollen high, her eyes so puffy they were reduced to mere slits, blood still trickling from the corner of her mouth, and a series of blue and purple bruises stretched from her arms down to her calves. His hair was as messy as a bird's nest, his clothes torn to shreds, and he looked utterly disheveled. When Jean was arrested on the spot, when the news spread throughout Jiangqing, I was preparing for a charity gala. The old master handed me his phone, and the front page headline was about the Wynn family's bankruptcy and when Jean being sentenced for intentional assault. In the photo, Tao Zi lay in the hospital bed, her face wrapped in Bandages, her eyes vacant, the old master sighed. What a tragedy. I looked at that photo, my heart unmoved. All of this was her own choice, from the moment she publicly humiliated me at the wedding for money, to later kneeling and begging me, then hurling insults at me out of greed, and finally suing me in court in an attempt to seize everything I had. Her fate was already sealed. The dinner party was a great success. The hostess, the wife of a highly respected entrepreneur, took my hand in front of everyone and thanked me for my contributions to the charity. Under the flashbulbs, I smile with ease and grace. Suddenly, I recall the person I was in my past life. After Tao Zi was left with nothing, she too lay on a hospital bed like this. I sold my only house just to scrape together enough for her medical expenses. After she was discharged from the hospital, she didn't utter a single word of thanks. Instead, she blamed me for not giving her the money sooner, causing her to miss the chance to make a quick profit. Then, using the money I gave her to recover her health, she went on another spending spree, trying to latch onto a new man. In this second life, I simply took back the life that was rightfully mine. After Tao Zi was discharged from the hospital, she came to see me once downstairs at my new home that day. I happened to be heading out to meet some friends for a round of golf. I was dressed in a sharp athletic outfit, looking refreshed and full of energy. She was wearing a set of old, faded clothes, her hair dry and yellowish, her body so thin it seemed to have lost its shape, and the scars on her face only looked somewhat menacing in the sunlight. She saw me freeze. She walked towards me, her lips moving as if she wanted to say something. I didn't stop walking, heading straight for my car. The driver had already opened the car door for me. Mom, I got into the car and, before closing the door, gave her a contemptuous glance, my tone icy cold. I'm not your mother. Don't dirty my ears. The car slowly drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw her still standing there. A friend beside me asked, Sister Lin, who was that just now? I shook my head. Someone I don't know. After that, Tao Zi never appeared again. I heard she went to work at an electronics factory in the south, putting in over 12 hours a day on the assembly line, her hands calloused from the labor. Some also say she found a construction contractor over 20 years older than her, with yellow-stained teeth, who keeps her in a handshake building in an urban village where even grocery shopping requires itemized accounting. Rumors abound, but none of it concerns me anymore. It's said that Lu Wanqiu, burdened with massive debt, has been restricted from high-end consumption, and all properties under her name have been auctioned off. She now rents a dim basement, making a living through odd jobs. Occasionally, someone would spot her at the vegetable market, clutching a vendor's scale, refusing to let go over a few cents for a bunch of scallions. Gone was the graceful and generous demeanor she once had. A few more years passed, my career continued to grow, and I even began venturing into the field of restaurant investments. I became the legend people spoke of. On my birthday, I threw a grand party at a private estate. The place was packed with distinguished guests. After several rounds of drinks, the master craftsman raised his glass and came to my side. He had drunk a bit too much, his eyes sparkling brightly. Girl, you've truly come to understand life now. I smiled and clinked glasses with him. I'll take that as a blessing. Halfway through the party, the butler hurried over and whispered a few words in my ear. He said there was a woman at the estate gate claiming to be my daughter, asking to come in. She made a fuss for a long time and just wouldn't leave. I frowned and walked to the monitoring room, where I saw Tao Zi on the screen. She looked much older than she had a few years ago, dressed in cheap clothes, her face etched with the hardships of life. Beside her stood a little girl of about 5 or 6, timidly tugging at the hem of her clothes. My gaze lingered on the child's face for a second. Those eyes looked so much like hers when she was little. She stood facing the camera at the entrance, holding a clumsily wrapped cake in her arms, calling out again and again, Mom, it's Z, let me in, I'll kowtow to you. I brought my daughter to wish you a happy birthday. I stared at the screen for a long time, that momentary days quickly fading away. Have security escort her out, and make sure she never comes near this place again. The butler nodded and withdrew. I returned to the lively party, continuing to laugh and chat with my friends. Someone asked me where I had just been. I raised my glass and said with a smile, I went to take care of an insignificant old matter. The fireworks that night were beautiful. They bloomed brilliantly in the night sky, then vanished into nothingness, just like my long-abandoned past. My life, the moment I decided to set down the teacup and take out that $1, had already turned to a brand new chapter. As for Tao Zi, will she regret it? Where will her life lead? I don't know, nor do I want to know. Everyone's path is chosen by themselves. Seek benevolence and you shall attain it. That's all there is to it. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue. To see, during my freshman year of college, my father brought home a daughter-like stepmother and a White Lotus stepsister. To avoid living as miserably as I did in my past life, I had no choice but to take on the mission of winning over my dad. In this new life, my dad has one greatest hobby, only I know about it, that is spending his money. The more, the better. I have been reborn. I returned to the day when the daughter's stepmother and the White Lotus stepsister first entered my home, the two standing at the door were delicate and fragile, as if a gust of wind could blow them away. I stood there with my hands on my hips, my eyes wide open, making the mother and daughter appear even more pitiful. How did I handle it in my previous life? It seems like I got into a fight with the mother and daughter in front of me. To be precise, I was the one who beat them up. After all, with my dad present, they didn't dare fight back. Later, I still couldn't stop two more people from joining our family. My dad gradually became disappointed in me, and his eyes were only on my stepsister. My childhood sweetheart became my stepsister's boyfriend. Naturally, my best friend also became my stepsister's best friend. Everything I had, she took it all away, and everything I didn't have, she now possesses. Everything hasn't started yet, and I haven't angered my dad or made him disappointed in me. Great, there's still time for everything. I pinched the soft flesh on my waist hard, the pain bringing tears to my eyes. Dad, you brought two people home without telling me first. Are you tired of me spending too much money and planning to abandon me? All right, I'll make room for these two right now. I deliberately slowed my pace as I passed by my dad. Sure enough, my dad furrowed his brows slightly and reached out to stop me. What nonsense are you talking, child? You're my daughter. Who else would I want but you? What do these two mean? You're already supporting them. How can you afford to support me as well? That mother and daughter had already shrunk to the side during the argument between me and my dad, their eyes red, trembling as they held each other. The daughter vine truly doesn't deceive me. Those who don't know the situation might think I'm going to hit them like I did in my past life. Anyway, I don't care. In this house, it's either me or them. There's no room for both. Once there's a stepmother, there's a stepfather. From now on, you three will be a family, and I'll just be an outsider. I wiped away my tears and stole a glance at my dad's expression. His face showed helplessness and irritation, but not a trace of anger. I bet right, unless you can prove yourself. My dad rubbed his forehead, running his fingers through his shiny hairline. How do you want me to prove it? First, give me this month's allowance as a small proof of your sincerity. The amount you give will show me the extent of your determination right now. My dad paused while entering the amount and accidentally added an extra zero. A hint of barely noticeable delight flickered in his expression, suppressing my excitement. I gave him a calm, understanding glance. All right, you still have some sincerity towards me now. We'll see how you perform in the future. My dad breathed a sigh of relief. But, from now on, I'm the boss in this house. No one can control me. I glanced at my dad, and he nodded. She glanced again at the mother and daughter shivering in the height of summer, and they couldn't help but nod as well. It was hard to tell whether it was from the cold or from fear. In my past life, even when I hit them, they never trembled this badly. Excellent. Practice has proven it. My father's attitude toward me is the happiness indicator for my future life. On this path, I will be invincible. Happy life. Here I come. Only after I ran out of the neighborhood and got into the car did I carefully start counting the string of numbers that had just been transferred. A string of 8 zeros lay quietly in the phone. Only then did I laugh out loud. Liang Weiming is really generous. Having mastered the money code, I was eager to try it again, wishing I could go back and do it a few more times, but I held back, not letting that mother and daughter notice anything amiss. After all, they kept insisting they weren't after my father's money. They had to at least put on a show. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but laugh out loud again. All right, from now on, all my dad's money and all his love will be mine. Let me bear this sweet burden. After taking my dad's money, I casually bought him a tie while shopping at the mall to win him over. I even made a point of getting up early to give it to him. Just as I went downstairs, I saw the family of 3 happily eating breakfast together. I had witnessed such scenes countless times in my past life. There wasn't the slightest ripple of emotion left in my heart. But that didn't stop me from putting on a pitiful act in front of my father. I pouted, not saying a word, and walked to the dining table. Wiping away my tears silently, I sat down. Looking down, I saw there were no bowl or chopsticks set for me. The little aggrieved wretch couldn't hold back any longer and burst into tears. My stepmother and stepsister put down their chopsticks and stopped smiling as soon as they saw me coming downstairs, reverting to their pitiful, delicate appearances. My dad saw me crying and was at a complete loss. He probably felt a little guilty too. Xian, what's wrong with you? We didn't call you for breakfast because we thought you were still sleeping and wouldn't be able to get up this early." At that moment, he really didn't mean it. Men can be thoughtless, especially someone like my dad, whose mind is only on money. He wouldn't give a second thought to such trivial family matters. He thought that by giving me money, he was proving his love for me, and that made him a good father. He would never consider how devastating it would be for a child who had lacked love since childhood to suddenly have a stepmother and a stepsister at home, nor would he think about whether I would feel hurt when I saw the three of them sitting together as a family. In my past life, I didn't know how to speak up. I only knew how to make a scene. Back then, I overturned the table, smashed the dishes, and infuriated my father so much that he cursed me as an unfilial daughter. My stepmother gently patted my father's back to soothe him, while my stepsister cautiously huddled close to her mother. Across the table, I watched the three of them sitting side by side, looking more like a family than ever. After that, I rarely went home, leaving the house I had lived in for 20 years to that mother and daughter. How foolish I was back then, letting others provoke me so easily, taking the initiative to make room for others, and even giving up my dad's money. Now, isn't it all about pretending to be weak and pitiful? Who can't do that? Dad, I'm not sad. These are tears of joy. Our home has always been so cold and quiet. Do you know how much I envy others? When I came downstairs and saw the three of you so warm and cozy, with my sister feeling like your own daughter, I was truly happy for you. You finally have a family. My father felt even more guilty for my words, his mouth opening and closing. I stood up directly and bowed solemnly to my somewhat stunned stepmother, the daughter flower. Aunt Lynn, I've come to understand things today. Thank you for giving my dad a home, and for bringing him a 20-year-old biological daughter. Thank you. I won't disturb your family of three during dinner time anymore. I'm really sorry for today, Dad. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Don't worry about me. After saying that, I ran upstairs, wiping away tears as I went. My dad was so moved that his eyes welled up with tears. Seeing the tie on the table, he held it close to his chest as if it were a treasure. My daughter bought me a gift for the first time, and I ended up hurting her feelings like this. I've hardly ever had meals with her since she was little. Seeing this scene must have broken her heart. My stepmother's eyes flickered slightly as she spoke softly to my dad. It's all my and Ningning's fault. I was afraid Xian would feel uncomfortable seeing us, so I usually tried to stay out of the way, thinking we'd finish eating early and go back to our rooms so as not to bother her. My father, lost in his paternal affection for me, didn't catch the underlying meaning in my stepmother's words. He put on the tie I bought for him and left a parting remark before heading out. From now on, wait for Xian to come down before having breakfast together. My stepsister Lin Ningning reached out to touch her mother, but was gently held back. The mother and daughter's eyes held unclear emotions. After this morning's incident, my dad transferred another sum of money to me. I happily accepted it and sent him a voice message. I reminded him to rest during work and eat on time. After showing my filial piety, I began to worry. Holding a large sum of money in my hand, I couldn't help but want to do something with it, especially since there would be many more opportunities to share will from my dad in the future. Then, I saw a boy walking out of the school gate, exuding an aura that screamed, "I'm miserable." In 3 big words, my eyes instantly lit up. Invest in him. Invest in him. It's Pei Su, the future tech tycoon. At this moment, he seems to have just started his business, but things aren't going smoothly. My eyes kept darting over him as I quickly got out of the car, shouting at him, Pei Su, Pei Su." The man in the distance finally looked up, his eyes bloodshot from who knows how many sleepless nights, his face sallow. A bewildered gaze appeared in his eyes. I ran up to him, catching my breath before saying, "You have a project in hand, right? Don't look for anyone else, I'll invest." Pei Su asked me with a hint of excitement, "Are you serious?" I resisted the urge to rush forward and hug the golden thigh, nodding frantically. Instead, for this matter, I left home early every day, even earlier than my dad went to work. On the first day, they waited especially for me to have breakfast, and when they saw I hadn't come down, they went upstairs to call me, but all they saw was an empty room, and my dad wiped away a tear with a pained heart. My daughter is truly heartbroken this time and hasn't forgiven me yet. I did have some acting involved, taking this opportunity to make sure my dad feels deeply sorry for me. Because of this incident, the plan to hold a banquet to formally introduce that mother and daughter pair has been called off. In private, Lin Ningning has cried several times. She had intended to use this opportunity to officially appear as the daughter of the Liang family, letting everyone get to know her. It was at this banquet that she and my childhood sweetheart first met. At that time, she deliberately slandered me in front of everyone, accusing me of pushing her down. Chikai saw it and shielded her behind him, drawing a crowd. Lin Ningning's white dress was stained with a large patch of red wine, and she trembled behind Chikai. Anyone who saw it would have thought I had bullied her. No one believed my explanation at all. Lin Ningning kept insisting that I didn't push her, that she had slipped by accident, but the more she explained, the less others believed her. After all, The stories of how I had repeatedly bullied her and her mother had long since spread. This banquet only made my reputation worse, while Lin Ningning used me as a stepping stone to blend into this social circle, making friends with many young ladies who didn't get along with me. What hurt me the most was that my supposed best friend also sided with her and gradually distanced herself from me. She said, Xian, how did you become like this? Ningning hasn't done anything wrong at all. She never intended to take anything from you. It's already pitiful enough that she and her mother married into your family. Why do you always bully her? I almost laughed when I heard that. She claimed she wasn't trying to take anything, yet every single thing she did contradicted her words. Look, the last friend I had left by my side has been taken away too. It wasn't Ningning who took me away. It's that I don't want a friend as malicious as you anymore. After Pei Su's matters were settled and the project in hand got on track, I started playing the role of the good daughter again. Dad, Ken, you give me some money. My stepmother, the daughter Flower, paused her hand while picking up food, returning to normal in just an instant. My stepsister, Lin Ningning, doesn't have as good emotional control as her mother, and she glanced at me recently. Just like in my past life, she has already met Chi Kai, and Chi Kai has already developed feelings for her now that she felt secure in her heart. Of course she didn't need to act so cautiously in front of me. Dad, there's something I don't know if I should say, but sister, she seems to have gotten a boyfriend. I even saw that sister pay for the meal and even gave that guy a stack of money. She described it in quite some detail. So in other people's eyes, Pei Su and I had that kind of relationship. My father glared at me, his anger directed straight at me. My daughter, Liang Weiming's daughter, is actually spending money on someone else. You're using my money to support some pretty boy, Lao Liang. Don't be angry, Xian might have been tricked. She has a lot of money in her hands, so it's hard to avoid being a bit extravagant. My dad grew angrier the more he listened. Did you spend all the money I worked so hard to earn on that kid? I shook my head disdainfully. What's that little bit of money good for? It's gone after buying a few necklaces, but I did spend quite a lot on him. My dad made a move to hit me, and this time my stepmother didn't hold him back. I was the one who held my dad back, leaning in mysteriously and whispering in a low voice, I've discovered a talent, invested in him. This is a big project, and it's definitely going to make money in the future, I declared with conviction. Dad, I'm your daughter, Liang Weiming. And who are you? Liang Weiming. He's the best at making money in this world, so how could his daughter be any less? My dad, buoyed by my flattery, stroked his shiny bald head every time he makes this gesture. It means he's feeling quite pleased with himself. This was something I had learned through blood and tears in my past life. My dad very generously and promptly transferred me another large sum of money. My eyes darted around, landing on the mother and daughter who were quietly eating at the dining table. Suddenly, I spoke up. Dad, since you've already given me money, why not give some to Ningning too? Otherwise, she might think you don't care about her. Old Liang, Ningning has plenty of money to spend. The 100,000 yuan in monthly allowance is more than enough for what the girl used to spend in a whole year. She's not like Xian, who knows how to do business. This child doesn't have many strengths, she's just a bit more obedient. TSK, isn't this just the classic case of a parasitic stepmother? Just look at the art of her words. But my dad is no ordinary man. Now that this mother and daughter have entered our home, it means my dad considers them part of the family. Spending money on his own people is his greatest passion in life. Would he be happy if we stopped him from indulging in his passion? Sure enough, my dad's previously upturned lips fell back down. Dad, why don't you transfer some money to Aunt Lin then? She stays at home all day with nothing to do, just drinking tea and tending to flowers. Spending the whole day like that must be so boring and exhausting. Just as my dad was about to pick up his phone, my stepmother, the daughter Flower, stopped him with righteous indignation. Old Liang, I didn't marry you for your money. Treating me like this is an insult. With that, she began wiping away her tears, looking utterly pitiful. How truly delicate she is, I sighed, feeling quite regretful. Dad, since my Aunt Lin has said so, you should be more mindful from now on. Don't always use money to humiliate her. Her heart isn't filled with money, it's overflowing with you. Old Liang, my dad was moved, holding my stepmother's hand and giving it a gentle pat, but the fact that the money didn't get transferred still bothered him. What's a daughter for at a time like this? She's her father's warm little jacket, always there to comfort him. I naturally had to help my dad out of his troubles. Stepping up without hesitation, I waved my hand grandly, full of righteous determination. Dad, just give me all the money you were going to transfer to Aunt Lin. Let me bear this humiliation on her behalf. You two shouldn't argue. Our family must remain harmonious and happy. My dad burst out laughing, pointing at me and saying, You're Still teasing your dad, you kid. All right, here you go. It's all for you. A soft ding sounded as a notification popped up on the phone, confirming the transfer. Stepmother forced a stiff smile, while the resentment in Lin Ningning's eyes was impossible to hide. This morning's breakfast, only my dad and I had our fill. With a hefty sum of money from my dad, I started pondering what investments to make. I need to build up my own assets, given my dad's past behavior, treating his stepdaughter better than his own flesh and blood. I can't rely on him forever. Once I've fleeced my dad dry, plus what I've secretly saved up myself, by then, I'll definitely be the richest person in the world. Sitting in the car, I fantasized about a bright future, then looked up and saw the giant screen playing in the center of the square. It was showing this year's hottest celebrity. A sudden inspiration struck me, and I realized what to do. I'm going to start an entertainment company, those future blockbuster actors and genius singers who haven't made it big yet. Right, I grabbed a pen and paper, racking my brains to recall the most famous people from my past life. After thinking for a long time, I could only come up with two names. One is a powerhouse actor who should still be doing bit parts in various film crews. Another is a prodigy girl singer, though at this point it's unclear whether she's even entered the entertainment industry. Having identified my targets, I gave my dad a call. Naturally, I couldn't handle the exhausting task of tracking people down myself. My dad is very supportive of my entrepreneurial endeavors, and within less than 10 minutes, his assistant sent the message over. No wonder they say my dad is a genius at making money. The future best actor is currently working in a film crew funded by my dad. Upon arriving at the set, I kept a low profile, searching for the movie star in the crowd. Then I saw him, the future internet sensation, sitting on a rock, devouring a 10 yuan boxed meal. I never paid much attention to the entertainment industry before, but he later became so popular that I'd always come across his videos while scrolling on TV. He was always dressed in a sharp suit, elegant and articulate. He's more down to earth now. I walked over to him and greeted him. Hello, let me introduce myself. I'm Liang Wanxian. The man in front of me, probably in his 30s, swallowed the last bite of his boxed lunch before speaking. Is there something you need? I run an entertainment company and would like to sign you. The man was clearly taken aback, lowering his head without another word. Someone not far away overheard our conversation and called out to him, "Doesn't your family need money right now? What are you hesitating for? This beautiful lady clearly can't be a scammer." After a long while, the man in front of me spoke in a hoarse voice. "What's the name of the company?" I was careless. "The company hasn't been established yet." The man turned and walked away. I quickly caught up with him and handed him a contact card. "I'll go register the company right away. If you decide, come find me." I called my dad again, and he sounded very happy on the other end of the line. As expected of my daughter, Liang Weiming's girl, sharp as a tack. "Don't worry, I'll support you all the way." As a daughter, it's only natural to make my dad even happier. I asked him for another sum of money on the other end of the line. My dad's laughter grew even louder. My dad is happy, and I, his filial daughter, am happy too. Both of us, father and daughter, have a bright future ahead. I've found another talented young singer, and she hasn't entered the entertainment industry yet. Fortunately, I made it just in time. She hasn't been tricked by the agency into signing a contract yet, and her songs haven't been given to others. I successfully signed them, and the follow-up matters were handled by the professional team my dad hired. So I didn't have to worry about it. The holiday passed in a flash, and school was about to start. In my previous life, at this time, Lin Ningning was already with Chi Kai, and the two of them openly showed off their affection at school. I just don't know if Chi Kai's family would still acknowledge her as their daughter-in-law now. Without my father formally introducing her as the daughter of the Liang family, she's just the daughter my stepmother brought along. Lin Ningning attended the same university as me, and in private, classmates always liked to compare me with her. Of course, no one ever took my side. After all, my temper used to be quite bad, and I never made any genuine friends. Deep down, I actually felt inferior in front of Lin Ningning. She had a mother who doted on her, and she even took my father away. Sometimes I often find myself thinking, why does everyone around me like her and not me? It must be because I'm not good enough in some way. I always looked for the reasons within myself, and it wasn't until much later that I finally let go of this mindset. This time around, I'm only going to focus on myself. I no longer skip classes, no longer slack off, and I no longer pay attention to the relationship between Lin Ningning and Chi Kai. In this second life, the faint stirrings of affection I harbored in my youth have long since vanished like the wind. Mentioning him reminds me of another person, besides my dad. She hurt me the deepest. I truly considered her a friend, and I never expected her to call me malicious. Is it just because I don't speak as gently as Lin Ningning? And I don't indulge her in everything. I looked at the message she sent me on my phone, asking if I would come to her birthday party tomorrow. Everything was moving forward along the same path as before. She and Lin Ningning had become good friends once again. Ever since Lin Ningning came to my house, my chat history with my best friend had never been updated again, but still, I went to join her. I pushed open the door of the private room at the agreed time, and it was already full of people. The birthday song had already been sung, and the cake was half cut. It turned out they had arrived early. Seeing that everyone had arrived, the celebration began. No one told me the time had been moved up. Everyone was remembered except for me. My best friend's face paled slightly, at a loss for what to do. Lin Ningning smiled and stepped forward to link arms with me. Sister, you came just in time, right when we're about to have cake. My best friend followed Lin Ningning's words and continued, Xian. This biggest and most beautiful piece of cake is for you. She held the cake up to me, looking at me with innocence. For a long moment, I didn't speak, holding on to a sliver of hope that she would remember, but she didn't. She truly had no recollection at all. You know, I never eat birthday cake. My best friend was momentarily dazed, her face pale and filled with confusion. I'm sorry, I forgot. When I was little, my dad was always busy making money. On my birthdays, he would always have the housekeeper buy me a cake. I ate the entire cake all by myself. Ever since I grew up, I've never had birthday cake again. It only brings me those unhappy memories. I glanced at the people in the room and handed her the gift. Your birthday gift. This should also be the last one I give you. Happy birthday. You all have fun. I won't join in, so as not to disturb you. I had just walked out of the private room not far when my best friend chased after me. She still kept her head down, not knowing what to do, and said nothing. To say I'm not sad would be a lie. In this lifetime, nothing has even happened between us yet. How did we suddenly start drifting apart? Emotions are truly fragile, whether it's family bonds, friendship, or love. That's why I must firmly hold on to what belongs only to me, things no one can take away. I reached out and touched her fallen hair, still speckled with scattered confetti, before I arrived. It was clear she had been having a happy birthday. Go on in, don't keep your friends waiting. I wasn't planning on coming either, but I thought there should be a proper beginning and end. At the very least, I should say goodbye in person, right? Liang Wanxian, what do you mean by that? Are you saying you don't consider me a friend anymore? I waved my hand without looking back. I've already found the path I want to take. We're no longer walking the same road, and on this journey, I have someone to walk alongside me. In my senior year of college, I chose to study abroad. In recent years, my relationship with my dad has gotten better and better, and I've managed to get my hands on more than half of his money. Peisu's company and entertainment ventures are also thriving. I already have the external conditions in place, and once I return to the country, I'll start taking over my dad's company, because I've come to understand one thing: relying on anyone is not as reliable as relying on yourself. Only by having solid personal strength can one remain invincible. Before that, I don't need to go around telling people. Once I reach a certain height, they will naturally see. What I can do now is to keep accumulating my own strength, and then amaze everyone. After returning to my home country, I looked up at the familiar blue sky and white clouds under the same sky and suddenly smiled once. I thought important things seemed so trivial when I saw a broader world. Sister, this is my brother. He works at Dad's company now, and Dad always praises him for being capable. Lin Ningning proudly introduced the seemingly honest man before me, but I knew his true intentions better than anyone. During my absence from home, my father was once again won over by this mother-daughter pair, though not to the extent of being as biased as in my previous life, where he completely ignored me. I let out a light laugh and pulled out a chair to sit down. Oh, that's great. With someone as capable as your brother working under me, my job will be much easier. The honest and simple man finally looked up at me, and I smiled back at him. This was something I had already discussed with my dad before going abroad. Upon my return, I would take the position of vice president. Lao Liang, Xian just got back. Why not let the child rest a bit? The company has so many people. Don't overwork her. My stepmother spoke without a trace of emotion, but her words made it clear she didn't want me to join the company. She wanted to leave my father's company to her own biological son. If it weren't for the fact that my relationship with my dad had improved in this lifetime, she wouldn't have waited until I went abroad to let her son show up. My dad said as he put food in my bowl, Xian is very capable now. Maybe in a few more years, she'll take over my position. I glanced at the other three people and pretended to joke with my dad. Dad, give me a year. In just 1 year, I'll have you retired at home, living a comfortable life with Aunt Lin. My father didn't take it seriously, but I was dead serious. My work performance earned My father's high praise, and he would tell everyone he met that he had a wonderful daughter. In the past, my dad would habitually transfer money to me when he was happy, but now, he has changed. Then I discovered that during my absence from home, my dad's little stash of savings was almost drained dry. The mother-daughter pair at home had uncovered my dad's hidden hobby, praise him a little, coax him a bit, and my dad would foolishly hand over the money to my stepmother. Naturally, this money ended up in the hands of her own son. After I joined the company, he took the money he had obtained from my father and gave it to his own father, secretly starting a company. He was paving the way for his own future. In my previous life, he devoted himself wholeheartedly to the development of my father's company, even going so far as to change his surname to my father's, all for the sake of legitimately inheriting the company. At that time, I was despised and abandoned by my father, and there was no place for me in the Leon family anymore. Even my own room was given to my stepmother's biological grandson to live in. On New Year's Eve, it was the last day before my rebirth. The room full of people fell silent upon seeing me return. Well, what a lively New Year's celebration this is. Dad, do you have a biological son and grandson now? You come back and immediately make this house unpleasant, is that it? Out of everyone in the room, only my dad said this to me. I felt like an uninvited guest who had barged into someone else's home, unwelcome. I just thought you were working hard raising someone else's son, so I wanted to show some concern. Is that not allowed? I finished speaking and stepped upstairs, pushing open the door. The room was filled with toys, the bedsheets I had carefully chosen, and all my clothes in the wardrobe had been replaced. I threw all these things downstairs, startling my father's precious grandson in his arms, who burst into loud wails. The daughter-like stepmother hid beside my father, whispering poison in his ear. Old Leon, the kid insisted on staying in Xuanxuan's room. I couldn't talk him out of it, so I let him stay for a few days. You agreed to it too. Xianxian might be upset if she sees this. My dad didn't take this matter seriously at all. Liang Wanxian, what are you making a fuss about? I agreed to let him stay in your room. You're not coming back to live here anyway, so it's just sitting empty. If you want to be at home, then behave yourself. I'll have your Aunt Lin clear the room for you. If you don't, then get out of here right now. I walked out of the house, laughing out loud. This time when I went back, I deliberately caused trouble, just to make sure they wouldn't have a good New Year. But when I looked at the countless lights shining from homes outside, not a single one held warmth that belonged to me. Laughing turned into crying. A year later, I took over the company from my father. He was completely retired, sitting in the chairman's seat and not getting up. I comforted him with good intentions. Old Leon, money can't be earned in a lifetime. You've worked hard for half your life, so take a good rest. I'll make money for your daughter. Okay, money can't be earned in a lifetime, but all my money has ended up in your pocket. Leon looked at me with a pitiful, aggrieved expression. I shook my head without a hint of guilt. Nonsense. Your money went straight to that mother and daughter. I didn't take a penny. So don't you dare pin this on me. They didn't even get a fraction of what you did. Lian stood up angrily, shouting at me. I was quick to react, plopping down in the seat and nudging my dad forward. Finally sitting here. This spot really is the most comfortable. Secretarially, bring me a cup of the hot tea my dad always drinks. Let me get a taste of what it feels like to be the chairman. Dad, is there any point in discussing this now? You should hurry home and plan where to travel. Have some fun. Life isn't just about making money. Or, you could find me a stepmother. After all, you're still young and should enjoy life. That's right, my dad and the daughter-like stepmother got divorced. She may look delicate and fragile, but her heart is too ruthless. Ever since she discovered my dad's hobby of spending money on others, she went all out to take advantage of him. He had almost drained all the money from old Liang's hands. By the time my dad realized what was happening and saw that his bank account was nearly empty, I revealed that my stepmother had funded her own son and ex-husband to start a company. My dad was furious and immediately filed for divorce. The money that was taken is just not coming back, but it's not a big problem, because there really isn't much compared to me. What they have combined doesn't even come close to what my dad gave me the first time. However, it won't be easy for them to get their company up and running. After all, my dad needs to vent his anger too. After taking over my father's company, I went to the entertainment company a few years ago. The person squatting on set eating boxed lunches has now become a film emperor. His eyes held a bit more sparkle than I had ever seen on television. Seeing me, he smiled at me. The joy of reunion waved to us in a silent smile. That one sheltered genius girl, her youthful voice overflowing in the recording studio. A faint trace of delight stirred within my heart. Because I signed them early, I never had to go through those hardships. Everything was moving in a positive direction, except for one thing: my dad is retired now, but he doesn't go anywhere. He just loves keeping an eye on me. Lately, I've been having a really tough time. The wheel of fortune turns, and it's my turn now. Ever since my dad found out that I also invested in Pesu's tech company, his only hobby at home every day has been asking me for money, but he doesn't know what my hobbies are. My first hobby is saving money, and my second hobby is making money. My full name is Liang Wanxian, but my nickname is Iron Rooster. My specialty skill is being as tight-fisted as they come, biting back the heartache. I transferred 100,000 to my dad. Liang Wanxian, you unfilial daughter, is this all you're giving me? The sound was piercingly loud. I sat with my legs crossed, sipping hot tea, and upon hearing this, I felt wronged on my own behalf. Originally, I had planned to transfer 50,000, but then I thought about how my father hadn't treated me too badly these past few years, so I forced myself to add another 50,000. This was nothing short of a daughter's earth-shattering filial devotion. Furious, I hung up the phone. After all I've done, he still doesn't appreciate it. I'm so wronged. After I finished complaining to Pesu, he stared at me thoughtfully. Back then, why did you trust me and transfer so much money to me all at once? I didn't even think before answering. Of course you're more important than my dad. Pesu's ears flushed red, his emotions unclear. So in your heart, I'm that much more important than your dad. I understand your feelings. His voice grew softer, his head still lowered. I smiled even more brightly, patted his shoulder, and encouraged him. All right, you must keep working hard. I have high hopes for you. Secretly delighted in my heart, it's enough that you know my feelings. Hurry up and make more money for me, my money tree. After hearing the two stories